everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. So in my last video, I talked about 10 books that you all need to read before the end of the year. And in today's video, I'm talking about 10 books that I need to read before 2024. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of an extra challenge because it would have been so easy for me to come up with 10 books that I wanted to read ASAP that were new releases or, you know, just newer books in general. But I wanted to give myself the extra challenge of 10 books that I own physically that I need to read before the end of the year. Some of these books I've had on my shelves for like probably upwards of 2 to 3 years. And then some of these books, of course, are more recent additions to my personal library. But I have a lot of different genres going on. I've got some romance, of course. I've got some fantasy, some historical fiction. We even have some manhwa, which is the Korean version of manga. So let's just go ahead and get on into it. First up, we have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I have to give credit where credit is due. I watched a vlog that Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life did some months back where she was rereading this series. First of all, I just love the way that Crystal talks about books. I think that she's just so eloquent and I just love the way that she describes things. Like, I just don't know how else to say that. But yes, she was talking about how much she adores this book and the romance in the story, and I was sold. So I have read some books by Laini Taylor before. I read her Strange the Dreamer duology, which is a young adult high fantasy that has a very strong romantic plot in it. I absolutely adored that duology. I think that Laini Taylor has a very unique writing style, and the types of stories that she comes up with are just so cool, so interesting, so next level. But this is a series that she wrote before her Strange the Dreamer duology. But yes, the way that Crystal talked about the romance in particular in this first book especially, like, I need to read this ASAP. Oh my God, like, what am I doing with my life that I have not read this book yet, you know? So I'm gonna read a little bit of the synopsis on the back because I really have no idea what this is about. It says, once upon a time, an angel and a devil fell in love. It did not end well. Around the world, black handprints are appearing on doorways, scorched there by winged strangers who have crept through a slit in the sky. And in the tangled lanes of Prague, a young art student named Karu is about to be caught up in a brutal otherworldly war. When a stranger, beautiful haunted Akiva, fixes his fire-colored eyes on her, the result is a star-crossed love whose roots drink deep of a violent past. That sounds incredible. So next up, we have some indie contemporary romances that I would love to get to soon. First is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is the 4th and final book in her Twisted series. These are contemporary dark-ish romances, I would say. I've had this book on my shelves for well over a year since I read Twisted Hate, so it's been a while. But this one I vaguely remember. It's about Christian and Stella. Christian is a billionaire. I adore Anna Huang's billionaire romances. They are fantastic. And then Stella, our heroine, I think is an influencer, and I think that someone is threatening her, maybe even stalking her, and Christian just wants to protect her, so that sounds perfect. I recently got the audiobook for this, so I have no excuse to read this now. Next up, we have There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is book 1 in a duet or a duology. I am obsessed with these special edition covers, so as soon as these went on sale, probably well over a year ago, I scooped them up from Amazon. So this one, I think that's a serial killer and an artist, like the heroine is an artist. I loathe Alistair Shaw. The city of San Francisco thinks we're rival artists. In truth, we're predators battling for hunting ground. We never chased the same prey until the night we both laid eyes on Mara Eldritch. So that sounds very intriguing. When I think about this duet though, I can't help but think about Tori from Novel Life because she's one of the only people that I know that like despises this duet. So I hope that I enjoy it a lot more than she did. And then recently the audiobooks came out for this duet, so I'm definitely gonna snag those soon as well. So if you watched last week's video, you might recall that I talked about I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys, which is this author's most recent release. She writes young adult historical fiction novels. And I have had this book sitting on my shelves for probably like upwards of 4 years at this point. That is Salt to the Sea, which is arguably Ruta Sepetys' most famous work. It might be one of her first novels as well. But just like I explained in my last video how Ruta Sepetys likes to write historical fiction about historical events that just aren't talked about a lot. And so this one takes place during World War II, but comes from a very different perspective than what we're used to reading about when it comes to World War II historical fiction. So this one takes place in winter 1945, centers around 4 teenagers and 4 secrets. So this one is about the single greatest tragedy in maritime history, and that is not the Titanic. And this book lifts the veil on a shockingly little known casualty of World War II. I just think that it's insane that this event isn't talked about more. You know, obviously the Titanic is very famous and for very good reason, but something like this should be equally famous. Like, that is just crazy to me. But I have heard nothing but rave reviews about this book, and it is well past time that I finally pick it up. Next up, we have the one and only book on this list that will be a reread. I didn't want to bring up too many rereads in this video just because, like, I personally feel that that would kind of be cheating, but this is one book that if I don't reread this in November, I am giving all of you full permission to bully me, and that is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. It is time, friends. It is time that I finally reread this book. I read it for the first time in 2020, which was the year that this came out. I have still not read House of Sky and Breath, though I know the gist of the main plot twist at the end of that book, but please don't spoil anything else for me in that book. But I absolutely need to reread this first book of the series. I remember the world building being kind of clunky and convoluted, so that's kind of why I've been putting off my reread, but I do remember genuinely loving this book too. So I just need to pick it up. I have the audiobook from the first time that I read this, so I just need to start listening to it. And I annotated this the first time that I read it, so I think that that's gonna help me with my rereading experience as well. Next, we have some 2 books from Book of the Month that I really want to get to because I have just been stockpiling my Book of the Month books. Most of them I have not read still, so I need to get on that. So the first one is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I have read a book by this author before. That was The Nightingale, which is definitely her most famous book. She writes adult historical fiction. This one centers around the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl of like the 1920s, 1930s, and it basically tells the life story of our main character. I've heard that it's very heavy, just like The Nightingale was, but that it's also beautiful. So yeah, this is another one that I know once I pick it up, I'm gonna be really invested in it. So I just need to go ahead and get started on it. Then we have a really popular book at this point. This is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. As you can see, this won the Book of the Year in 2022 from Book of the Month. This was a very hyped up book in 2022 for sure. This one I think is more like literary fiction. So it says 2 friends, often in love but never lovers, come together as creative partners in the world of video game design, where success brings them fame, joy, tragedy, duplicity, and ultimately a kind of immortality. How did I not know that this was about a video game? Like, that's cool. This is one that, as hyped up as it is though, I have seen a lot of mixed reviews too. I think Gabrielle Zevin has kind of a unique writing style and that doesn't really jive with everyone, but I'm hoping that I enjoy this one. I haven't read literary fiction in a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to this. So next up we have the one historical romance on this list. That is Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. I need to get back into the Ravenel series, guys. I have not read this series since like April or something. Like, it's been a long time for sure. But at the same time, I'm kind of savoring this series because once I finish it, I won't have any more new books by Lisa Kleypas to read. But I'm so excited for this one because our heroine is Phoebe, who is a young widow, and she is the daughter of Sebastian and Evie, who are the main characters of Devil in Winter, which is a book from the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas, if you don't know. And then West is a character that we met all the way in book 1 of this series, and I really love him. He reminds me of Leo from the Hathaway series, also by Lisa Kleypas. He's just a really fun character, and I love the development that he has gone throughout the first 4 books of the series. So very excited to see him be the hero. And I think Phoebe has children, so that's also going to be really cool to see West become a father. So very, very much looking forward to this book for sure. The last 2 books on this list are both manhwa, which, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that is the Korean version of manga. And last year I started reading manga, so I'm very excited to dip my toe into manhwa. So these 2 books were highly recommended by Madison. And speaking of Madison, I'm gonna link her channel down in the description below. But her debut novel, Good Game, very recently came out. Like, what was it? On Wednesday? And I'm filming this on Friday. Like, that is so exciting because I've heard nothing but rave reviews about it, and it just sounds like a fun time. But anyways, she highly recommended Villains Are Destined to Die and The Remarried Empress. Something that I think is so cool about manhwa is that they are full color, at least the ones that I picked up. Both of these have, you know, full color illustrations, whereas manga is black and white illustrations. So the first one, this is Villains Are Destined to Die. Love this cover. This one says, playing daughter of the Duke's super love project as the easy mode heroine Yvonne makes charming the male characters a breeze. But once you switch to hard mode and step into the shoes of Penelope, the misunderstood villain, it's nearly impossible to even stay alive. So imagine the shock of suddenly waking up in Penelope's body. You know right away that your life is on the line. So yeah, our main character is living in the real world, and she wakes up, I guess, like in this video game as the misunderstood villain. Like, what? That sounds so freaking cool. And yeah, Madison just raved about this one. And the other one that she really raved about was The Remarried Empress. Like, look at this cover. Are we joking? This is art right here. Empress Navir and Emperor Sovishu, a match made in heaven. They were the 2 pillars of the land whom everyone believed would stand by each other through thick and thin, until a chance encounter with a beautiful girl in the forest leaves the emperor smitten. Though hurt by the betrayal, Navir is not one to waste time wallowing in despair. And when Sovishu requests a divorce, she has but one condition in return: permission to remarry the man of her choosing. So I heard that this first volume, like, she shows up to this ball with this new man on her arm and everyone is scandalized, and that just sounds amazing. So yes, very, very excited to explore manhwa and these 2 stories in particular. So that is going to be it for the 10 books that I need to read before the end of the year. Definitely leave a comment down below if you want to let me know about books that you feel you need to read before 2024. I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!